Let's discuss this. How do you approach a problem that you have no idea what to do? I'm sure you have a good example yourself. I have a quote for that. Einstein said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes looking for the right questions to ask, right? I think that a lot of professionals, no matter the agnostic or profession, are very prone to throwing themselves into doing things, right? But I think all of these great minds throughout the history, like Tesla and Einstein and Nikola Copernic and all of these guys, right? They used to know how they knew how much time it's needed to think and to research and stuff and then do, right? So this is also one of the very common things with junior developers, right? Is that when you start programming, you learn some basic stuff and you just feel you're on top of the world, right? You just want to write code. But then oftentimes you start building things that you have no idea what you're doing, right? So what I do personally, and that's why I love going to work, at Dream Data, where I currently work, we use a system called OKRs, Objectives and Key Results. And basically, every team in our organization is an expert team. So we don't have CTO or someone else bringing solutions to us. Our CTO is going to come every quarter and say, hey, this quarter we have these OKRs. You have to implement, you have to improve this number of, just a random example. Let's imagine we need to improve, reduce the friction of users signing up. Then you, with your team, you come up with the solutions on what that might be. And you never know, right? And then you start the research, you look at other products, you try to get some domain knowledge, you try to talk to customers, you try to talk to people internally. If you have a customer success team, you can go to them and say, hey, John Doe, what it is that people are having issues in this part of the product. And then your CS, of course, has a lot of insights. Then you go to your marketing team, then you go to your sales team, and then you ask your sales team, hey, sales team, what it is that you guys are struggling when you're selling, what are the... So this is why I love programming. The least amount of programming that I love today is writing code. The most programming that I love is the part up to writing code. This excites me. Trying to figure out when to do things. We always know, as I said many times before, every single company knows what to do. You always have a huge backlog. It's just when to do it, when is the right time, etc., and all of these things, right? So the way that I approach it, going back to the original question, is just trying to genuinely understand the problem and trying to talk to as many people, at least that I have access to in my organization. That's why I also love working from the office. I work from the office more or less every day, unless I'm sick or whatever, because I can talk to people, I can feel their pain. I can talk to my sales team and say, man, it's so hard to sell this thing because, this is confusing to customers. Or I go to my customer success and I try to help them, and then I derive various types of opinions. Then I sit with my designer, my product manager, my other developers, and then we brainstorm and we figure out, okay, we gathered all of this feedback. Now let's try to make some actionable points. But actionable points like something that we can quickly try to test and fail, right? So the once you gather all of this feedback, you want to try to come up with some minimal scopes, avoid scope creep, right? Because it's always easy to overextend. Oh, how about we also do this and this and this? No, just focus on certain points, try to validate them. Is it good? Great. Then let's sit again, reevaluate the time, and then let's invest more time, right? So, I don't know, this is what I think every developer should try to find inspiration in, because if your inspiration only is just writing code, no offense to anybody, but that probably means you're still very junior, or you're still not on a level of being excited about the outcome of the product and not just being a code monkey, right? Because writing code is a skill that nearly everyone can learn, but turning yourself from a code monkey into a professional that genuinely tries to be part of all of these processes of talking to the actual people, seeing their pains, this is the beauty, right, long term. So, yeah. So that is basically my take. That is my take on it. What I read between the lines, you're breaking down the problems to smaller problems and then go to talk to her. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you have to These problems are huge, right? Building a product is like raising a child. It's a never-ending process. It never stops. You never really, for example, let me give you an example. Every company on the planet wants to reduce churn, right? Churn is when your customers don't either leave, they don't subscribe anymore, they don't pay a yearly contract. So every single company wants to reduce churn. Every single company on this earth, every single month, one of the tasks that they do is related to how can we prevent customers from going somewhere else. So that's one of just a random example. Every single company out there is trying to make their onboarding process in their product better. Every single product, digital product especially, wants to make sure that the users can sign up as quickly as possible and configure the things with minimal effort possible. So you never really solve these things. You never do this and you say we're done. No, you're not done. So that's why you have to have small chunks of things where you improve. Because in the next quarter or in the quarter after, you're going to have the same OKR again. Let's reduce churn even more. So what else can we do, right? So that's why it's fundamental to realize that these problems are not solvable fully ever. Because you will never reduce churn to zero. You're always going to be able to do more optimizations, right? So that's why it's important that you understand when you talk to people and all of this stuff to gather some insights and figure out, okay, this is how many OKRs we have now, and this is the reasonable amount of time we have to solve it, well, in that time span, right? Yeah. I mean, the speed isn't necessarily, right? So sometimes things are going to take a long time to research, and they're going to take very little time to implement. I see this every day. Sometimes things are going to be very clear what you need to do, but the solutions are going to take a very long time to implement, right? So it doesn't really matter, right? If you have a reasonable team, a reasonable CTO, if you have a good internal communication, these things are always clear, right? Some solutions sometimes take 1 day to implement, right? Because it was just that little fraction of things was missing. Sometimes solutions are very complicated and they might drag for 3-4 months, right? Then you have to break these things down into meaningful things and always push to production. Your goal should always be to get things out, right? Even if you have 25% of things done, put it under Launch Darkly or under some flag, expose it to your product manager, the rest of your team, all the parties involved into the product, and always have it there. And then as you push changes, make sure that there's this constant loop, right? Because when you're building these more complicated pieces of your product, your CEO in a smaller startup is always going to be involved. Your CTO 100%, and a bunch of other people. So don't put pressure on yourself keeping that thing on your machine for 2 months, 3 months, because there's so many things that you can do wrong. So just continuously, as soon as you start a new thing, first thing you do, put it under Darkly flag, put necessary parties under the platform, like who has the access to see this, almost like an A/B testing, and then that's pretty much it. Give me 1 second. But yeah, this